Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to Mornings with Marva, where authenticity lives and thrives to create a space of growth, healing, and joy. I am your host, Andrea Lawful Sanders, and each day we will cover the topics that are informative and engaging while learning from each other. Child, Dennis, listen. I actually put up a thing saying I was not going to be on today, and then I realized I'm up. I'm like, you're awake. Just go ahead and have the show. It's Love is Thursday. Cherie is out on the West Coast seeing her youngest grandchild that was just born. So of course it's 3 o'clock there. She doesn't want to disturb people in the house. But I got stuff for us to talk about. So don't worry about it. We always, navigate our spaces. Thank you all so much. I'm going to go into my morning motivation and then we'll deal with some news and then we'll talk about stuff that relates to the Love is segment. Please be aware that Marva is extremely exhausted. Taking care of an octogenarian who is fit and spry and running up and down all over the place is not an easy task. And so, we're really just kind of hanging out with him to make sure he has a good time and give him whatever he needs. I've posted a few videos because you all enjoy when my parents come to visit, especially my mother. Oh my God, when my mother would come to visit, good morning, all of you, and she would just say and do some crazy things. So one of the things I want to share with you that the what my parents call shoes, my father calls it kick me, kill me. Kick me, kill me. Why do you have so many kick me, kill me's all over the place? So I'm gonna go ahead and start with the morning motivation. And also, I'm exhausted. Let's just be clear. So we're just gonna do the show and do what we need to do. I'm gonna need your participation, so I'm not talking the whole time. Good morning, Monica Adams. Good morning. I see all of you, Laura. All of you. I see you here. Good morning. I wrote this last year around this time because I was going through something with a group that I was a part of. Alexandra says, my father is now the new spokesperson for Duafa. Did you see them ashy feet? Like, sir, when is the last time you put some lotion on your skin? But that's another story for another time. I'm going to start with some quotes. And then I'm going to tell you what I wrote and what has happened since that time. And really, it literally, quite literally was a year ago, maybe in the last 2 or so days. No matter what you tell people, your behavior speaks more than your words. Act accordingly. In order to attract good friends, you must first be a friend worth having. A life lived with gratitude is the most rewarding one to have. You will find what is ultimately important. We are called to a path in this journey called life. Whether you answer that call or not, you have chosen your destiny. Every transformational leader has the ability to be willing to be uncomfortable, make uncomfortable decisions because the right choice is not always the easy one because it usually offends or hurts someone. Super Soul Sunday. I chose all of these quotes above because as much as I see people and their actions, this most recent elections, which happened November of 2024, and the conversations people refuse to have, either by being silent because it is easier to try and fit in by being a team player, or complicit in protecting the offenders, I have had enough with those who are not friends, either in words or deed. but conscripts people in their circles so they can feel better about the horrid things they say and do without nary an apology. Learn the difference between someone who was trying to gaslight you instead of taking accountability. Learn to walk away from places and people who would rather suck your soul with fake smiles and platitudes instead of facing themselves. Choose bravery instead of acquiescence. Choose joy, light, and love where it comes without stipulations. I had to painfully remove some people who I thought I would be friends with forever, and chose my soul in a time that would require all my energy and fully acknowledge the ones who would make no excuses about what was happening. That happened a year ago, literally a year ago. And I was a part of a group, which I heard imploded after I got finished. Like the group is no more. Of women, powerful women from all walks of life. And, they were leaders of business and industry at the national, state, local levels. And we would get together once a month and we would have a dinner and we would say, what happens here stays here. We said that so many times because it was a space where we could be vulnerable in a time and a place where, because of the work that we did, most people didn't know what we were doing. Most people didn't know the spaces and places that we were, and I mean leaders of business and industry. A couple were in politics, so working with mayors, et cetera, et cetera. So we were very mindful to whatever happened in that group stayed in the group, right? And then a couple of things happened over the years. One of them was we chose to have dinner at my house, and one of the women decided that she wanted to run for office, and at the dinner table said, "Please don't. I'm thinking about it. Please don't say anything to anybody. I don't want this to go out." Not 4 days later, I get a phone call that one of the women that were in my house, had gone to the thing in New York with the Pennsylvania, I forget what they call it. She had gone to the thing in New York and began talking about this person who had said they were going to run for office. And I said, okay, Andrea. I got the call. I was furious because we had already said what happens here stays here. But I had to calm myself down, and I invited the person to come meet me at my house a few days later. And I put them on my porch. I would not let them walk back inside my house, and I laid them out. And I said, because you don't know how to hold anything, you are not welcome back in my house. And we will be very careful what to say in front of you moving forward. So there was that. And then I began really watching this person. And as the elections were coming, in 2016, you'd be stupid not to vote for this one and stupid not to vote for that one. And then when George Floyd happened, and some of the women in the circle was talking about how they were stopped and how they were afraid and all the things and the same person said, well, if you'd only just listen to the police officers, you'd be fine. And I'm watching and I'm watching and I'm watching. And I began having conversations with some of the other women. I said, something's wrong here. I'm not feeling this. And y'all get yourselves together, because okay. And then I had completely cut that person off in the group, and a couple of the other women were like, come on, we want to do stuff together, we want to do it with you, we want to do it with her, but you're not speaking, she's afraid of what you're going to say. I said, look, we're all grown women. I said what I said and I meant what I said, and I'm not coming from a place of harm. I'm coming from a place of just trying to figure out what we're going to do, because if we are to trust each other, then we should be able to share everything, and I don't feel comfortable sharing everything. Well, the elections happened in November of 2024, and I'm waiting to see if anybody's going to address what we saw happening and how that would impact us as women. As you can see, a year later, all the stuff that I was telling them, they were like, oh my God, you're being too dramatic. This one particular woman, you're being too dramatic and blah, 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 blah. And everything's going to be all right. And don't worry about it. And, we have 3 branches of government and all's going to be fine and blah, 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 blah. And I had had enough. I had had enough. So I began saying to them, it was myself and a few of the other women in the group were just feeling like this was not going to end well. We got to work it out, but nobody would engage us in having the conversation. And so I went back into the group and I went ham. Like literally, I said, this makes no sense. We have a clear racist in the group. We're not doing what we're supposed to do, blah, 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 blah. And a couple of the women who I thought would say, I understand what you're saying, said, oh, I want to hear what she has to say. I believe she's okay, blah, 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 blah. Baby, just started. I didn't, because they understood when I said, if you decide that this is what you want to do, then you are not going to be a friend of mine, and let's just call it quits, right? Because I am not going to be friends with you for the rest of my life to the detriment of my soul. And what I realized was there were some people that looked like me in the group who were just willing to just keep going and blah 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 blah. So two things happened out of that. I just cut folk off. I, just not doing this. A few weeks ago, a couple of weeks ago, I got invited to a birthday party, and I saw one of the women that I hadn't seen in a while that I really loved, because when all of this was going on, she emailed me and she said, I'm starting to realize that there were some things that were said and done that I could have been offensive, and I want to apologize to you. I accepted her apology, but I hadn't seen her in a while. We hugged each other and we're just laughing and talking. She's white. And in the middle of that conversation, she said to me, a year ago, I would have thought that you were exaggerating. She said, a year later, I don't understand how you saw all of that, but we can't say you're exaggerating anymore. You saw what we couldn't see in the moment. Women are being let go with alacrity. Black women are really and we went in and talked to them and said, all right, let's just go ahead and we're going to figure out and hang out. Da, 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 da. I don't care if you're black, white, Indian, Puerto Rican, whatever you are. That's not the conversation here. This wasn't about race. This was about people's lives, their livelihood. What would happen to them? How would this navigate and turn itself out? So here I am with this white sister now. She's like, come on, let's figure out how we're going to navigate through this, because I hear and I understand. And then I got another call maybe a few weeks before that from another sister who said, oh my God, I noticed you're not in any posts with such and such anymore. We're all starting to wonder did you? I said, well, see, the thing with me, particularly with women, particularly with black women, if I'm not speaking to you ever again, I'm not going to tell the whole world I'm not speaking to you ever again. I just disappear. Nobody will see me in a picture with you. No one will see me hanging out with you. No one. And so they start to realize, they say, yeah, that ended. That absolutely ended. So we can let things go without making a big splash about it. But I will never forget. It's amazing. If we pay attention to what people say, not what they say, but what they do, it will inform how you should respond to them. And I realized that there were some folks around us that were friends because they just thought it would get them to lead to another place, another position, another space in life, so pay attention to the people around you. I am looking for no new friends, and I really don't want any Johnny come latelys. And I need you all to think through that. I walk humbly. I don't need to be in certain spaces, and I work hard to treat people well every single day. And I look at myself every morning. I get up, Andrea, how are you handling this? How are you navigating? Even as I'm discussing the things that are happening in these last few days, I'm incredibly mindful not to denigrate, but to just look at the issues. Right? What's going on here? How do we navigate through this? How do we work this thing through? That's the way we do this stuff. And a year later, you're looking. They keep saying 300,000 black women. Man, it's way more than that now. We haven't seen any numbers. No data has come up because they squashed the data, right? We see people from who are getting SNAP benefits being told that they're being lazy and they got to reapply and all this other stuff, while folks are suffering in a country where it's one of the wealthiest in the world. We see folks really navigating and trying to figure out, how am I going to make it through whatever this thing is? Our young people are on the edge of suicidal ideation because they went to school. They did everything we told them to do. These most recent college graduates are waitressing and really, truly can't find jobs. And they were told, go into this field and go into that field, and you have to go into computer science because things are changing, only to recognize that artificial intelligence has taken all their jobs and continues to take their jobs. I'm having dialogue with folks who are saying, I am going to have I'm going to do assisted suicide. It was one person, and then it became two, and then it became three, and then it became four. So while some of us were trying to figure out what our next moves were in terms of, I want this job and I want that position, damn everybody else, the rest of us were trying to figure out how to help the people around them. It's hard. My husband said, don't say it's hard. It is challenging. It's challenging. So be mindful about the way you carry yourself, because people will never, ever, ever forget how you make them feel. And if they think for 1 second that you were in these conversations, that you're only as good to them as your as what they can do for you, then the word will spread quietly. You are not the person. And you'll look up and you'll wonder, why is no one trying to help me? Because behind closed doors, they're having a conversation about your behaviors, past and present. You've got to treat people well. I can't tell you enough. Jimmy Williams was on yesterday from IB Big with Joel Wilson. The thing he said, the biggest wealth we have as a people is the love we show each other. Truthfully, right? And when we complain about this one and that one, we attract to us who we are. And I say this to Denise all the time. I said, look at the people who are married and they're fussing and complaining. In that moment when we married them, we knew certain things and we just didn't. But as we grew and we were like, this doesn't feel right. We then tried to move on, but the person we're married to is not shifting and changing. And then there's some people who are married to assholes, literally, and sticking with them because they're the lover, because you understand that person, because you are who that person is. We attract to us who we are. So let's not get it twisted. And when people show you that they're willing to compromise you and compromise your well-being and your livelihood, you are to walk away. Don't make a splash about it. Don't have a whole, oh my God, I can't believe it. I had no conversation other than that vitriol of a message I left in that group. Frightened everybody. Because I had been waiting and trying to have the conversation and waiting. And instead of seeking to understand, those folks wanted to be understood. Well, I feel this way, but after all, I'm such and such and such, and I'm a gay woman, and I'm this and I'm that, and I go through this and I go through that. And after all, I understand I'm Black, but I truly just want to learn what the white people feel in this group. Wait, what? And the white folks who were speaking up and saying, I understand what Andrea is saying, they either did it quietly. We began having the hard conversations, because I am a sister who will have a hard conversation with you. A couple of them asked to sit down and meet, and I went and met, and they cried because I was having the hard conversation, not in a mean way, because I'm not mean spirited by any stretch of the imagination. But I would look you dead in your eye and say, you did this, and this is how it made me feel. You did that, and this is how it made me feel. And oftentimes people live in a shadow of, well, I just want everybody to get along. Oh, well, I don't know what. I'm having a conversation with you. If you're willing to have it, oh, we will have it. And life is too short right now for us to pussyfoot and mollycoddle and make people feel better about themselves, specifically if you're in the ages 40, 50, 60, 70, 80. Where have you done your work? Where's the healing coming from? Seriously. That you're still sitting and talking about, well, this happened to me when I was, I could recite some things like everybody else, because we've all had some level of trauma. If you got to this age, you've all had some level of trauma. But to sit and hold on to that trauma as if it's a tether to a donkey, nope. Heal and move. Heal and move on. That's what we're doing out here. So, good morning, y'all. It is, I know I said I wasn't coming on, but I'm here. My father wore me out. I know you all enjoy when my parents would come to visit. So and I only put up a snippet of the things that we went through with him. But one of the nights he's here, I invited some friends to come over. We had a house full of people, and I noticed he took two of our friends, I took them aside and began talking to them. And my sister and I were like, what he doing? So I called one friend, I called one friend yesterday, and she says, Andrea, the other friend said the same thing. He really just misses his daughters. He misses you. He wants to see you more often. He's feeling, blah, 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 blah. He wants you to know that he's, already have you all taken care of. And I said to the one friend I was talking to, I said, Daddy knows that we are not waiting for him to die for anything. We're living our lives and living it to the best of our ability. And we're the ones taking care of him now. So tell him, don't worry about that. And, but it's good. And on the subject of parents, parents are not perfect people. And when they're not perfect and there are things that happen, don't hold on to it for dear life. My sisters and I sat with our father, uh, began having a conversation with him about some things we experienced as we were growing up, not to blame him, but to make him understand how those things impacted us. And he understood. Well, it took him a couple of days. About 3 days, he was sucking salt through a wooden spoon. And then he came back and said, I didn't realize that that would make you feel that way. And so there began the healing journey. Oftentimes, we wait until a parent dies so we can heal. But you know who started the conversation, right? Me. And when I began talking to him about the things that you're just trying to turn your sisters against me, and my sister said, "Oh, sir, no, hell to the no, no, no." And they began telling him some of the things that they were experiencing, not to give him a heart attack or to make him feel badly. But I had to tell my father, I had to unlearn some behaviors so that I could be a better parent to my children, right? I was strict with my babies, but as they got older and became men, I had to treat them like they were men and not expect them to do what I told them to do. My father would, because I said so, sir. Now I'm full and grown, not just doing it because you said, and this is why I'm not doing it. A lot of folks won't buck their parents because I don't. God says honor thy mother and thy father. You can honor your mother and your father and still have hard conversations with them. So his visit has been wonderful. My sister said, I think he's afraid of you. Been wonderful. Wouldn't get in an Uber. I'm like, sir, you gonna get into this Uber or you gonna sit over there and nobody's coming to get you for another couple of hours. He said, all right, I guess I'll get into the Uber. And I assume that as I get older, the same thing's going to happen. But try to unlearn some of the behaviors that impacted you as a child so that you don't pass it on to your children, your nieces and your nephews, your grandchildren, all of that. Right? It's a lot. It's not easy. But don't sit around and wait for them to die and say, my mama died and or my daddy died and Lord, they did this and Lord, they did that. They don't know. They don't know if you don't tell them. And if you tell them, yeah, he looks young, child. I have good genes. And if you don't tell them, if you tell them and they turn their backs, then you know what to do. You go ahead and get your healing work on and rock it out, right? Because you can't make people be anything they don't want to be. I happen to have parents who are willing to listen. I had that healing conversation with my mother when I was 35. I had 20 good, solid years with my mother after that, right? And I'm sure there are things that I've done to offend my own children. In fact, the oldest one, he and I had a blowout earlier this year. It took me about 4 weeks of just sitting, listening, trying to understand. And then I wrote him a letter that says, I apologize. I didn't realize that I was doing and saying things a certain way. Y'all, the power of an apology, the power of a sincere and authentic apology, followed by doing something differently, makes all the difference in the world. It does. It absolutely makes all the difference in the world. And my son now, if I wanted to, is it okay if I do da da da? Yes, mom. You don't have to ask me all the time, or he'll say, Mom, can you come? Blah 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 blah. And our relationship is completely different. We had the conversation in his 30s where I was having the conversation in my 50s with my father. So learn how to have those talks. Or if you can't talk to them, because some parents are really rough. My father is rough, right? I was able to have the talk with him. But write a letter. Write a letter and hand the letter over and say, this is what, and they may be offended at first, but when the words are written and they'll go back and read it over and over again, it'll tell a story. They'll start to absorb once they get themselves out of feeling affronted, right? Um, she said, your daddy looks very young. Yeah, he looks like our brother. You have good genes, beautiful. His laughter is contagious. Uh, Alexandra Cheryl says, I absolutely love that conversation you had with your father. I just had it with my mom yesterday. Wow. Give yourself permission to have those healing conversations because when you don't, it shows up in the way you talk to and treat people in business and industry. When you don't, I can't believe they said that about blah, blah, blah. That's how you show up as a leader. Because very often, the way we behave as adults is predicated by the way we grew up as children. And if we don't heal from that, we grow up to be people who are terrible leaders. So it's incredibly important. I see you all here. Good morning. Good morning. Let me see what else is happening here in the Uh-oh. Alexandra says, oh, Marvel, were you in my house listening to my conversation with a family member? Lord, no, I'm not. But if we're honest with each other and ourselves, then we know these conversations happen in our families all the time. All the time. When mommy passed away, I was sharing with you all that my mother was sick and in the hospital. And I mean, I was devastated. She was talking to me about, she said, listen to me carefully because I was crying. Stop all that crying. Listen to me. And I began recording. To this day, my mother's been gone for 2 years. I've not replayed those recordings. I can't hear her voice right now, right? I literally have to just cut it, but I heard some of the things that she said. And when she passed away, I posted that she passed away. If I told you the amount of inboxes that I got from people who said, the lessons we learned from you about loving your mother, I couldn't stand my mother. I'm trying to go back to go have the conversation with my mother right now. You were so honest about da 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 da. It's not easy, right? And another woman says, thank you for reminding us that not all parents are, terrible. They just go through certain things, that not all parents are, that we can go back and have the conversation. It's not when I tell you. But if you have the conversation and they turn around and they decide that they want to be themselves, let them be themselves. But be kind, be authentic, but do not put yourself in the place of harm. So you just don't know. You just don't know who you're impacting. Sharon says, I was about 55 when I had the talk with my dad. Once that happened, our relationship was smoother, although still difficult. He never apologized, but thanked me before he passed. Our father apologized. We almost fainted. He apologized. He said, I am so, and then he went in to describe what life like was for him growing up. So he even had his own traumas, right? And through those traumas, he passed them on to us. I am the only child in the family that is so courageous, it makes him crazy. Because he would say, don't do this. That's going to happen. Don't do that. When I got in the F-16 with the United States Thunderbirds and broke the sound barrier with them, he called me and he says, your mother and I want to talk to you. And I flew to go see them. And the one of the first things my mother said was, we owe you an apology, because we kept thinking you were just all out of, you were crazy, but you just kept living your best life. You just kept living, and we thought you would outgrow and the energy would just abate. And she said, I'm so grateful to see how you have shifted. And I mean, it really shifted the relationship that I had with them. But my father, he was the one I couldn't get through to, and I waited until mommy died to have the conversation with him. Janelle says the first step is recognizing you need to do that healing work. Unfortunately, some folks are still in denial, and they are. But here's the thing: while they're in denial, you tell them what's going on, how you felt, what they've done, and leave it there. I promise you, even though they're still behaving the same way, it's in their soul, it's in their head, and you'll start to see subtle shifts or not. But believe me, they heard. They absolutely heard it. Laverne says it is a blessing when you can have those conversations. I was young writing letters to my mother, and she put me out for it. As an adult, she still wouldn't. I had to heal without the conversation. Write the letters and then burn them. You'll be all right, my darling. Katisha says, how do you start a healing conversation? So in our instance, here I am all on the World Wide Web telling you all my business. But if it's going to help you, then that's what I will do. I started the conversation by saying to our father that, grateful are we that he was a good father. When he found out my mama was pregnant with me, they lived across the street from each other. And my mother's a sharp dresser, right? And they began dating, and she got pregnant. And he said, I stopped smoking cigarettes, and I did all those things. And so I acknowledged the good. I started the conversation by acknowledging the good. When he wanted us to move into a bigger house, he sold his car and took the bus for a year to make sure that he could put the down payment on the house so we could be in a bigger house. He was really great with talking to us about peer pressure, sitting under the cherry tree, talking about peer pressure and talking to us about life. And he read a lot. And so I was careful to talk about the things that he did that was awesome, right? And then I gently moved and I said, now I just want you to recognize and hear me when I'm talking to you about blah, 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 blah. And I went into that part. But I wouldn't start a conversation with a parent, particularly a really rough one where you've had a hard childhood, by saying, oh my God, I can't, you were just terrible, blah, 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 blah. And then what was good for me, because I am one of four, what was good for me was when I began the conversation, he turned around and was that, because he was angry, right? At the very beginning, he was very angry. I can't believe you said all those things. Your mother and I did all this for you and blah, 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 blah. And you're trying to turn your sisters against me and blah, 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 blah. And my youngest sister chimed in and said, I know you said none of these things because of all your children. You gave her the hardest time, and she's the one that makes sure you have everything that you need. You need to apologize. Boom. So when that happened, then the other two jumped in, and I was like, well, look at my sisters. I know my mother was in heaven smiling her little cheesy face off. So we were able to have the conversation, right? And so now when he comes to visit us, while he's still talking our heads off, he's not telling me what to do. He no longer walks in my house and tells me you shouldn't do that and you should move that. I'm shocked. I'm shocked. But you can tell that he has learned, right? And as a direct result of all of that, we can have the kinds of conversations that we need to have. It was the best. We're driving yesterday. We took a trip, and he said to my sister, "You drive with your husband. I want to drive with my oldest daughter so we can talk." And I looked at him and I said, dude. And he said, no, 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 no. No, I haven't seen you in a while. We talk on WhatsApp all the time, but I miss you. I want to talk to you. And we had the best conversation. It started out kind of, what we going to talk about? And then we had the best conversation for hours. Right? So it's a good thing that we're able to heal and have the conversation. Um, Oh, Laverne says, I had the talk with my dad, thanks to you, Andrea, but I still had to distance. The conversation was everything, though, right? And they will, they'll pretend that they don't hear and they don't understand. Remember, part of this is that they don't know how to, they think they have to fix what they did. Don't make them feel that they have to fix what they did. Just make them aware. I just want to make you aware so we can move forward in a better place. Seriously. But start with the good. If you can find any good. The fact that they allowed me to be born Jesus, I know. My father's like, I never met a child like you, and I don't know what we're going to do. But when I took the album from the United States Air Force and they saw me, I showed them the videos of my going up in the sky and how the earth was just round and how it was just amazing. And they started to really understand you can't raise children all the same way. They're four different people, four different minds. And as a direct result of my sister watching how I was raised, she raised her child differently, her daughter differently. Because her child is very much like me. So she raised her daughter differently, allowed her to get involved in all the things that she wanted to, allowed her to take sports. She's now in a doctor. And I don't know what her field of expertise is at this point, but it's plastic surgery. But raised their child differently because of the way I was raised. We learn from watching each other. So we don't carry around those bitter pills. Does that make sense? Laverne says, my dad opened the door. Hold on. Wait. Cheryl said, oh Lord, there's a lot of talking. I didn't know I was going to do this today. So thank you all. Thank you. Wait, oh my God, you all are talking. Alexandra says, Janelle, yes, the family member I was speaking with made a comment that our family is dysfunctional. I agreed and replied, and that's why I did my healing work. However, she's unwilling to do the work at this time. You can't make people do what they don't want to do, right? Hold on, the conversations. Monica says, I have had many wonderful healed years with my mommy. It was so hard to say certain things, but it made our relationship so good. I wish my siblings had the same. Cheryl says, I started by asking my mom, how does she see me from when I was young to now that I'm 63? Oh, I can only imagine what she said. Janelle says, at Alexandra, hopefully the fact that you acknowledged the dysfunction and told her you did your own healing work will be the catalyst for her to do her own. Monica says, unfortunately, I wasn't able to have that conversation with my dad. He passed away so early when I was only 26 years old. I didn't have the knowledge at that point, but I was able to heal through mommy. Blessed. Wow. Laverne says, my dad opened the door. He asked me why I was mad at him and when I was the only child he took care of. I then asked if he was ready to talk. First time he said no. Second time he said yes. Because we know. We know. Sharon says, my siblings were afraid of my dad. Um, uh, my aunt, his baby sister, was the one who said to him, what your youngest sister said. I'm the youngest in my family by 8 years. Alexandra says, at Janelle, me and my sister both have. This family member is the one who always finds herself in a crisis because she doesn't communicate with us until something is wrong, it's too late, and expects us to do the work. Viola says, I was born too early and my mom died so early in my life. I do need to have better conversations with your children and grandchildren. Not sure how. Help. Viola, you know how. You know how. That conversation is, I thought the way I was raising you all that I was a good mom, but you admitted that you were strict on them in some level. I am going to suggest to you that you listen instead of explaining why you did what you did. Listen more than you talk. Take notes, ask them if you can take notes, and then you one thing at a time try to change something that really aggrieved them. Because if your children and your grandchildren are having that issue with you, there's something there that they're not addressing, right? So just allow them the space. Your feelings may be hurt. You're going to cry buckets of tears because you said, I thought I was doing all the right things, all the right things. And remember, we're human. So when they come, when my son came and was like, blah, 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 and I was like, excuse me? Oh, I lit him up. I said, I don't know who you think you're talking to, blah, 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 blah. And I'm sharing this with you transparently because that was my initial response. And he would call my husband every day. I just want to tell you how I'm doing. I knew he wanted to talk to me. I was like, why are the two of you doing this? Why aren't you talking to each other? But he wanted my husband to know through me to know through my husband. He was, when he got another job, and I just want to let you know. And then I said, okay, Andrea, you're the parent. Sit down and think about all the things that you experience. So it means you got to go a little deeper inside and not think about yourself so much. Why would my son feel this way? What am I saying and doing that makes sense? Why am I making him feel like although he's 30 and has bought 2 houses and got a wife, 3 kids, and 3 dogs, and doing his thing, that he has to listen to me no matter what I say? And when I did that, it clicked. That's the way my father talked to us. I said, oh my God, I got to unlearn this ish. I have to unlearn this ish, right? And so, it's hard work, but it can be done. It can be done. Donette says, I am an only child and have 2 children. That's so true. You cannot raise your children all the same. You cannot. I'm the wild one in our family, right? I'm the wild one. My sister's the thing. April was telling Denise and her husband her husband the other day. She said, Mommy and Daddy would say, well, these are your chores, especially in the summer months. These are your chores. You are not to leave the house. We want to make sure that you're safe because when we were growing up, there were no phones in our houses. So they couldn't just pick up the phone and call us. They would have to leave work and come home to check on us. And for the most part, they were not doing that. I had a friend whose father would sneak up and come and catch them. And I was like, what kind of craziness is this? She's still trying to heal from all of that. But April said, Daddy would say, these are your chores for the day. These are the books I want you to read. Stay home. And she said, 5 minutes after they left the house, I would say, oh, I'm going to the beach. And they would go, how did you just hear what? I said, I'm going to the beach. And so she said, the other sister, the one right behind me, would huddle the other 2 and said, this is what we're going to do if something happens to her. This is what we're going to tell Mommy and Daddy if something happens to her while she's out there. And so they had to make plans. They say I owe them for therapy because I would go off to the beach with my friends. I would go climb the mountains with my friends, all the things you see me doing now as an adult. And they were just like, how are you always so brave? She couldn't understand it. But I lived, except for the time when I went to the beach and they came home not 30 seconds after I got back in the house, and I threw the beach towels in the closet and forgot, and they got molded in there. And Mommy found it about a month later. And she just knew. Andrea, I go and, I'm smelling myself. I'd already graduated high school. I was 16 years old. I'm smelling myself. And she said, starts talking to me about the towels. And I was going off to university to a college course. And she said, and she grabbed me And I pushed her off of me. Daddy said he was laying in the bed and going, I'm going to lose a child today. So my mother hauled off and slapped me, and I slapped her back. When I came to myself, my clothes were ripped. I felt like I had it. My mother blacked out. Blacked out. That's me now making it to 16 years, of just getting on their last diggity dang nerves. Daddy would not allow her to touch me. He was like, he gonna kill her. She was running after me. I'm screaming bloody murder. She's trying to kill me. But everything she told me to do, don't get under the car with your father to fix the car. I know how to change the oil in the car. I know how to change the tire. I know how to change the brakes. I know how to change the. She couldn't get me to be the prissy girl that she wanted me to be. And I drove her crazy. Let me tell you something. My mother said so I grew up thinking after that she just did not like me. And I had to go through a whole lot of leadership healing sessions. And when I called her at 35 and I said, I have been holding you in my heart. I've been holding you in my heart. I thought you never loved me. And I just want to apologize and say I was not the easiest child to raise. And my mother started to cry. And she said, let's talk. And we talked. And she said, you were born to help people. You were born to shift lives. She said, and we are so afraid for you because you just walk right into the lion's mouth. And as a first time mother, you were my first child. I didn't know what to do with you. I had no idea what to do with you. And so we began talking at 5:00 every morning for years. Sometimes 4:30 in the morning, because that's the time we would wake up. I don't know why I'm having this conversation, but I'm just going to let it lead and go. And she would get up, and if I didn't call her by 5, she would call me. She says, aren't you on your way to the gym? And we would talk. And then the last 7 years of her life, my sisters bogarted me and started calling her at 5:30. She would throw me off the phone for them. I said, all right, lady, ain't nobody. Okay. And she would walk them. They would walk with her via phone, and she would take her walk. She would sit with them and tell them, you're not sitting up. You're not doing the exercises properly. They would have the phones. They'd be working out, and she would laugh at them. And then when they decided it was time for them to go off to work, she would red dot them and hang up the phone. So she was able to have the kinds of conversations and curate the love from us. But I had to do my work. And yes, I did. I slapped my mother. And I every time I would do a presentation at a high school or a middle school, and I would tell that story, they would all go, I never did that again. I never did that again in life. And my mother would pinch me and smack me and pull my hair. And I was like, okay, mommy, I earned it. I asked until the day she died. Right? So, yeah. So when I came to myself, my mother was like, oh, you have lost your damn mind. All right, I got something for you. And then she sent me off to school, clothes torn, and then didn't give me no lunch money. Since you're so good and grown, you're going to go to school, going off to Huey, and figure out what you're going to do in your class. Oh, I gave them such a, Lord Jesus, Lord, I gave them such a heart. So there's some children that, they just have a lot going on with them. And my mother said, I was not the child that would run off and smoke. I didn't smoke cigarettes. I didn't drink alcohol. I was not that child. I was the child that thought that if something needed to be done, if Mr. Forbes wanted coconut water and it would help his heart condition, I was climbing the coconut tree. And they would tell me, don't climb the coconut tree. And I would find a ladder and I would climb the coconut tree. And then I would take the machete and open up the coconut. And they were like, what the hell is wrong with you? My mother said, you just never, if you thought something was right to do, especially if it was helping someone else, you would do that. It took us a while to figure that out. The woman that lived across the street from us had mental health. I think she was bipolar and something else. And she would walk around with a half slip on and her breastfeeding. She was cussing everybody out that walked by her, whether they looked at her or not. And I would walk outside and I said, Miss Norma? She said, yes, little girl. I said, you all right? She said, yes, but why are you talking to me and everybody else is running from me? I said, because I'm not afraid, Miss Norma. And she would come across the street and say, make your little sugar, make your little flour. And I would give away my mother sugar, flour, rice, whatever Miss Norma wanted. Whatever she wanted. So my mother understood that I was not someone who was just tearing everybody up. And when I met one of my cousins who came to the University of Pennsylvania as a student, and I took my sons with me, When we sat down, she just kept staring at me. I said, "Why are you staring at me?" She said, "Oh my God, you were legendary as a child." And my sons went, "Do tell." I said, "There's nothing to tell." There's nothing to tell. And so my sons began learning some of the stories, and they're not like me, thank the Lord. But my grandchildren, at least two of my grandchildren, got that bug. So it'll be understanding to see what my poor son's going to figure out and do. But learn your family history, love on your families the best way that you can. My sisters, when we visit each other, we always come bearing gifts. Somebody wants a case of patties. Somebody wants a different thing. My younger sister was here. I said, "What do you want?" She's looking. She said, "All right, can I have a pack of that and a pack of..." Take whatever you want. Right? I go to, she comes to visit me with daddy. She says, "I know Mr. loves liver and onions." She seasoned, she bought and seasoned it up and froze it so we could make liver and onions. It's in the freezer right now. She wanted some oxtails. Oxtails are like $400 a pound where she lives. I went up to Lancaster and bought her 10 pounds. That's how we live with each other, right? It is important. So when you see me and I look like I'm not starving for attention, it's because I live in the nucleus of a family that treats each other well, no matter what is going on. And don't get me wrong, we fight. We fight. The sister right behind me, she's only 11 months younger. We were born in the same year. I'm born in January. She's born in December. She will walk up and just punch me in my chest and then run, knowing good and God well I'm gonna catch her, and I will laugh. And she screamed, "Ma!" Mommy said, "Girls, no, no girls on." Boom, and that's how we would do. If something is going on in our families, if I, when I first married my husband, and I was like, "Wait, what is happening here?" And I would call them and I would say, "Yeah, I'm not staying in this because his family don't really particularly care for me. I'm not doing this." And my sisters would talk me off the ledge and say, "Your husband is a wonderful man. He will stand up for you. And look, everybody in the family now getting along well." But your sisters, your siblings are the ones that will be the voice of reason for you if you allow them to be. Right? It's amazing. Welcome to Mornings with Mova. How may I help you?
Good morning.
Hi, honey. Oh, hi, Viola. How are you, darling?
This is Laura.
Laura, you sound like Viola. How are you, darling?
Hi. Oh, look, I'm just calling to comment.
Okay, comment, darling. What's up?
Well, I just put in a post, but I want to just say thank you because I'm sitting here. I was on a treadmill at the gym, and I'm like, well, how can I relate to my mom better? I think that the conversation was needed, and it's making me think. You talk to your mom at 5 o'clock in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
Well, my mom ain't up there early, but I'm thinking I need to reach out to her more, especially since she's getting older. So I just wanted to say thank you for that. And also, I'm evaluating my niece and nephew relationship because of you and your son.
Yeah.
And just seeing how, if I can make any changes to that, too. So it got me over here thinking. And I just wanted to thank you for bringing the subject up.
You're welcome,
because
sweetie
it's
pie.
very valuable.
You're so welcome. It's thank you for calling. Thank you for thank you for calling and acknowledging and sharing that with me. I appreciate it.
Yes, thank you.
And you know, Laura, I wasn't going to get on the air this morning. I was exhausted, and then Cherie wasn't coming on. I'm like, what am I going to talk to them about? I've had 3 great days on the air this week, and look what happened. Just from being transparent, we were able to have a conversation. Oh,
yes,
I love you, girl. Listen, you want to do soup later?
Yes.
Ha! All right. Well, all right, honey. I'll talk to you soon. Love you. All right, bye-bye. Bye-bye. So wait, the cover. Oh, I love you all. I love you all. You all are talking. Someone said, "Say what now?" Savage Capricorn, Andrea. I was only bold enough to run away. I know I slapped my mama back, honey. She said you were right when you came to yourself. Laura says, "Oh no, you didn't." Janelle says, "I've been having conversations with my nieces, giving them insights into why." Hold on. Giving them insight into why I've been hard on them at times. Lots of apologies and shifting my lens. Yes, Janelle. Yes. Yes. Shifting my lens. That's awesome. That's awesome. I love that. From children to young women. Winetta says, Every morning. Oh my God, you all are right. Thank you all so much. I didn't realize this would impact you as I was talking. Monica says, "Oh my God, you slapped her back. Yeah, you are something, Andrea, special." Renata says, "Every morning I take the time to listen to others, and there's always something said that I go and share with my children, which starts a conversation that we need as a family. I am loving it." Viola says, "I needed to have children by a husband. I lived in so much drama, and we're constantly moving. I went to 4 elementary schools. I'm the oldest on both sides." All right. Alexandra says, "Lord, I mumbled under my breath when I was 14. That almost had me pushing up daisies. If not for my grandmother, if not for my grandmother." Laura says, "This is a good conversation. I'm evaluating how I can make my relationship with my mom even better. Thanks for this. Awesome." Awesome, awesome. Laverne says, "I finally had a conversation with my oldest sons, telling him about his childhood and his dad and I and our parents. I told him his healing may begin if we started at the root. He enjoyed that." Yes, Laverne, absolutely, absolutely. When children decide that they want to, when you consider them acting out, there's something that they have inside that they want to share that they just don't feel that they can share. The traumas that people go through, right? Janelle says, "I have so much more respect for my mom, dad, and grandparents, etc. As I learn more about their lives, it illuminates how they operated and why they taught certain lessons." Absolutely. Maxilla says, "It's up to the parents to foster this kind of relationship, and it starts when the children are toddlers." All sounds good in theory, but if the parent is in trauma, is in lived trauma as their children are growing, as they give birth to their children and they don't know what they're going to do, they're living the best life they know how in that moment, which is why I'm cautioning everybody not to come from a lens of judgment so much, but from for understanding. You did this, I don't understand why. Can you share with me what your childhood was like? And baby, when you hear some of the stuff, you're like, oh shit, I couldn't have lived through that. You could not live through that. My mother's father, my father's mother died when she was 11. According to folklore and the family members that are still alive, when they see me, they burst into tears. Apparently, I look just like her, act like her. She was feared in her village. Everybody loved her, but no one played with her. She's the one that would take the person experiencing homelessness, bring them in, cut their hair, give them a shower, give them clean clothes, make sure they eat something. Sounds familiar? And everybody kept saying, "Why are you so different from everybody?" In fact, I am my grandmother, the woman that I never met, that was born in Cuba, because her parents ran away because they loved each other, and their parents didn't like it, so they ran to Cuba to stay together, and they ended up getting pregnant twice. And my grandmother was one of them that was born in Cuba, and then they came back to Jamaica. So there's all these things. So my father, in only in the last 3, 4 years, began talking about what he remembered of his mother. But he said, "Every time I look at you, it's like I'm looking dead in her face." So you don't know. You just don't know what people are going through. You just don't know. So, listen without the lens of judgment, please, as much as you can, because the trauma that they inflicted upon you is simply trauma that they experienced themselves. Good morning, Jean Smith. Good morning. Renata says, "I love my sisters, but we are so different from each other, but we have unconditional love." I'm different from my sisters too. 4 sisters, 4 different minds. I am the humongously courageous one. What we all have in common is amazing work ethic and taking care of other people. So we make sure people around us are okay. And if we feel like you're taking advantage, my sisters have paid for so many people's children to go to college, go to high school, bought their books, paid for their tuition. I did the same thing here quietly. Nobody needs to know all these things. So those Vibe and Imagine children from Abington, the reason they love us so much is because they're not going to be able to tell you the unspeakable things we've done to make sure that they could go off and thrive and do what they needed to do. Right? I'm talking too much now. Monica Adams. Viola said, "My husband was the yes daddy, and I was the bad mother. Our uncle had 9 children, and he told me somebody's got to be the bad guy, be the best." Yeah, but you can be the one that's a disciplinarian, and still the children can still feel love from you. And be careful. Your words have power, so choose the words carefully. Choose your words carefully. Stop saying your husband was the yes one and you were the bad mother. You were not the bad mother. You were the one who created order and discipline in the house. And as a direct result of that, they may have caused issues for your children and now your grandchildren. Go have the conversation with them, sit and listen. And I'm telling you, don't part your lips. Say, I'm going to listen. They're probably going to be stunned. They're going to call each other and go, damn, mommy, just listen to everything we had to say. Take notes. Some tears may come out of your eyes. Do not form an excuse from your lips. Just listen. Just listen. And if you know you can't do that, then invite them to write you a letter. Because you don't want to leave this mortal coil saying, my children don't like me and my grandchildren, I don't have them. Nope. Have the hard conversation now because it'll bring you all closer together. Laverne says, I have a closer relationship with my siblings from my dad than I do with my mother's children. I am an only child of my parents. Wow. Oh, Winetta says she just keep dropping the nuggets. This is additional therapy for me. I love y'all. Shaquilla Holt says sometimes parents react to situations they're going through while raising their children from being triggered by their childhood. Sometimes it's not appropriate for the present. Come on, Shaquilla. Come on. Come on. I could have been laying in my bed not having the show today, but look what came out of it. Look what absolutely came out of it. You all have been a lot of therapy for me from the radio station over to here because I was able to transparently share. In fact, the owner of the radio station said, I could never understand how you would just share. People just attach themselves because why am I faking the funk? Why am I faking the funk? You know, I learned from my parents, get what you need, not what you want in the moment. If you come to my house, you will not see a designer label bag. You will not see designer clothes. They raised us with such confidence that we recognize that whatever we put on our skin doesn't have to be name brand. And that's cool, right? So I dress well, but I don't spend a ton of money on clothes. I just don't, you know? The beauty that shines from you is really from inside out, not from the clothes that you're wearing or the name brand jewelry or the pocketbook. It's not by any of those things. But I recognize that we've been so steeped in trauma and so ignored and maligned. The way we feel like we will get attention is just truly by wearing the things that we think that people will pay attention to show that we've made it in business, that we've made it in life, that we're not poverty stricken, that we only have certain people coming to our houses, that we only have certain people that we align ourselves to so that they can see that we're important and that we're powerful. No, what's important is kindness. What's powerful is humility. What's priceless is true and unabiding love for the people around you. That's it. That's it. Monica says, I learned so much as to why my mommy was so strict with me after her passing. I am the baby and her last chance to get it right. She had major trauma living in the South. I understand her more now. Yeah. And so the goal is because we've been so traumatized as a people that trauma passes through our DNA. The only way we cut that trauma off and start to lessen it for our future children is that we do our work in the moment, that we're here doing our work in the moment. Sharon says, this show has been such a blessing to me, but especially today. I am healing and have more to do. The conversation is priceless to me. Thank you all. You're so welcome. Please hit like and subscribe. I've been talking a lot, y'all. And if you saw videos of my father, he has that same cough. For years, they've checked my lungs. I don't smoke. I don't drink. They're like, it's DNA. DNA is a hell of a thing. DNA is a hell of a thing. I look so much like him. It's scary. And I'm hoping and praying that I don't pick up some of his habits. But again, I interrupted that DNA by being a different parent to my son than the parent that he is to us. And he has also interrupted it by learning the lessons and talking to us differently, working with us differently, treating us differently. It's look, he said when he was here, it's so cold. I don't need to bathe. I'm fresh. I looked at him And I said, "Sir, I'm going into your bathroom. I'm turning on the water. I'm giving you the right temperature. You have 3 different soaps to choose from. This is what you do. Da, 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 da." And my sister said, "You got him to take a bath." Yes. It's just the way you navigate and manage. As he gets older, he's like, "I'm cold." And I guess this what's happened to older people. I don't know. Right? It's a lot. So have Alexandra said you're his twin, Jesus. But my mother said before she passed away, she said, of all 4 of our of you, you're the one that digs in his craw the most. You're the one that makes him think. You're the one that makes him do differently. And I didn't believe her because I was butting heads with him all the diggity dong time. All the diggity dong time. He was in here yesterday and he said, "Oh, look at my pretty daughter." And I said, "Don't bend my money tree, sir. I want to take a picture of my pretty daughter." You want to, and there are things that I do that he just doesn't know. We're working hard. He said to me, somebody told me that I shouldn't tell you guys what I have for you, blah, 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 blah. And I turned, he said, "Don't say it because I'm going to tell you what I said to them. My children are working. They're not waiting for me to die. They're working and building their own legacy for their own children and grandchildren. That's not how they were raised. They're going to be fine. They're going to be fine." And he said, "I'm almost willing to bet that what I leave behind, they're going to give to their children and their grandchildren." I said, "You're absolutely right. Absolutely right." But if you don't have the conversations, if you hold that stuff in your heart, if the story that you tell, you can tell the story, but don't let the story define you. Do not let the story define you for the rest of your life. And everybody just about has a story to tell. Everybody has a story to tell, but don't let the story. I have a cousin who was a little bit older than me. He said, "I watch you on Facebook." And he says, "I'm too old to," but I'm watching you doing all the things that I say I'm too old to do. His story defined him. And so the conversation has to be, you've got to reimagine who you are and what you can do. What you can do. The trauma is real, y'all. The trauma is real. I love you all now. This episode of Mornings with Marva is officially over. Thank you all for joining me. Thank you all so much for joining me. I appreciated having this honest conversation with you that I didn't know I was going to have. And you're responding. And thank you, Laura, for calling in. All right. I love you. I love, 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 love you all. I'll see you